Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be continuing the trend of first impressions for new content released in Japan. So, a little bit of a background. The Japanese server in Puzzle & Dragons is generally speaking 2 to 3 months ahead in terms of content. So it's announced in Japan, released in Japan, we wait 2 to 3 months, and then we get to play with those new toys. So obviously in between that time frame, things can change or be altered, but it doesn't hurt to have a first impression video. There will be no article, just narrating my thoughts because again, things will probably change by the time we actually acquire them. So this video here is taken, well, the image you're seeing here is taken from Puzzle & Dragon X, which will be linked in the YouTube description down below if you want to follow along on your own. But this is for version 12.5. So we currently are in 12.3.3. So just for a reference, we're kind of close, I guess, but numbers are arbitrary. But regardless, version 12.5 is introducing Super Awakening System. So presently speaking, cards can have 9 awakenings. They can gain more via the inherent weapon assists. They also can have up to 6 latent slot awakenings. So there is a great deal of customization for a particular card. You can have all these different awakenings, latents, and even inherited active skills. So even though you may have, say, 2 Diao Chans, they can function very differently based on how you actually utilize them. However, with this new update for this Super Awakening system, we will soon be able to have 10 or at least more than 9 awakenings on a particular card without an inherit. So they have taken out the 297 plus requirements for extra latent slot Tamadras in Japan. We will get that soon, but to compensate for that generosity, we're going to have to pay 297s to roll a slot machine, essentially. But again, this is a gacha game after all, but at least this isn't Magic Stones, thankfully. So these new awakenings will be available for specific cards. Essentially, what's going to happen is every monster that qualifies for this new mechanic, which you can see here, will have 3 different awakenings they can possibly roll through this Super Awakening system. As you can see from this kind of weird roulette, it looks like a slot machine. Like, it actually looks like a slot machine. Basically, what you do is you have to have a limit broken card. So all these cards qualify for limit break, and you have to have limit broken them. They don't have to be max level. In the example here, they're level 101. So as long as you fed that rainbow snow globe, you can activate the Super Awakening system. And then what you do is you pay a 297 into the card, and then you get to roll this slot machine, and you will gain an awakening based from the set pool of 3. So you can keep re-rolling this, and thankfully there's only 3, so statistically speaking, you should get what you want eventually. Again, we don't have to pay 297s for extra latent slot Tamadras, but now we pay them for the Super Awakening system. This is probably more expensive because you're going to re-roll it. But regardless, let's look at the new awakenings that are released. So we still have all the traditional awakenings we've had at this point in time, but there are some new ones that are tied to specific cards. Again, I don't think the details have been released, or maybe they have. I just don't see them on Pad X yet. So as you can see here, they have the chance for a new awakening, and this Raw Dragon here has a TPA, a Devil Killer, and this special new awakening, which we don't have yet, which I'm going to explain in a moment. So basically when you fulfill the requirements, you roll from those random 3, and then you'll gain that extra Super Awakening. I'm not sure how it's going to be displayed in the top corner. Is it going to be a yellow star? Is it going to be a fancy star? Who knows? But there are 4 new awakenings that can occur along with the traditional ones for each card. So they can have potentially enhanced damage when HP is above 80%. So for teams like Yogg, you could hit even harder. Let's say hypothetically you find a card. Is there a card that can be used on Yogg teams even? Yes, Anna Valkyrie you technically could use. She's used as an inherit more often, but you could technically use Anna if you wanted more damage. Like, you get the idea. Like, teams that want to stay in high health would love that new awakening if she even gets that. Enhance HP when below 50%. So this is the exact opposite. You don't want that thing when you're playing Yogg, but if you're playing something like Dark Metatron, this can definitely enhance your damage, or even help provide your team with more output if you get hit by preemptives. So you know what's coming up in a dungeon. You can plan for the preemptives to push your health at a certain point. I'm going to assume that these health conditional awakenings take effect on your turn. Like, even if you heal up, you will still trigger the below 50% clause, kind of like how Dark Metatron and any other health clause leader works. These should take effect prior to healing. So good to keep in mind. If you use something like Durga to reset your health to 50%, this under 50% awakening will help you out as well. So there is interesting combinations or synergies you can use. It's kind of like you don't have a gemstone, but you have a Durga and you have this awakening. Hey, I'm a budget gemstone. Not a terrible idea. The next is an L-shaped damage reduction when you match 5 heart orbs in an L shape. So heart crosses were awkward and annoying. They take a lot more space by comparison. You're essentially occupying a 3x3 box for the most part. Now, with an L, you can stick them in the corners, which will definitely help your matching. Ideally, it'd be better if it was a vertical one, but then that's follow-up attack, so we have to go for the L. Again, you still can fit enough combos in, it's not as bad. I'm not 100% sure on the actual damage reduction amount, but it's still going to be modestly significant, and it can definitely help you play through harder content where you need to survive giant preemptive hits, or hits that you could never have survived otherwise. And the last new awakening that cards have the possibility of acquiring is L-shaped attack. So you gain an increase into your attack value when you match 5 orbs of that main attribute in an L shape. Also, this removes locked orbs. So obviously 5 orb 1 enhanced leaders are kind of rejoicing. They get a card that has bonus damage for doing what they normally would do anyways. But then again, unlocking the orbs may be the bigger benefit overall, because sometimes you may have, like, say 1 or 2 locked jammers and no way to get more jammers, and that becomes a problem moving forward. So this is a cool concept. It can help reduce the need to roll cards that can unlock through their active skills. So this is interesting. Like, we're getting to the point that possibly there won't be any more pad art. It's just going to be like awakenings covering everything, because pad is kind of getting to the point where it's getting a little ridiculous for like how much things you can add onto a card. But if you think about it this way, adding on new mechanics to cards is a little better in a way than just simply adding new cards. If they kept adding new cards at the rate that they're increasing like new mechanics, no one's going to be able to keep up feasibly, because there's just going to be too many cards. There's not enough magic stones to go around. So yes, we're wasting a 297, but it's something you can at least farm. It's not a magic stone sink necessarily. Yes, Japan has pad radar, so they get 297s more easily, but again, this is a mechanic for endgame players, not for the average individual. It's just something new to chase, and because of the randomness and RNG in it, it's gonna take longer than other things may. So it is an interesting concept. Like, I feel like pad's getting to the point where it's becoming more and more complex, but at least, again, they're not adding in tons of new cards every day, and then we never keep up. So power creep at least occurs, but to a certain extent, at least kind of stays within the same cards. They get stronger and stronger over time because of new evolutions, new awakenings. So let me know what you think about this mechanic in the comments below. I know other games have done something similar, like Creature Quest, the other game I play intensely, has an enchanting system, basically very similar to this. We reroll with materials to get bonuses for our creatures or monsters. So it's not a novel idea necessarily. I know other games have done something similar, but what do you think about this system? Like, do you think it's worthwhile? Do you think it's beneficial? Do you think it's going to help the game advance overall? So hopefully you all have a mantastic day. Wish you all the best of luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.